Welcome back to the conversation. I'm Nubrato. The conversation, we talk about different events going on in the community. The last couple months, we've talked to some local politicians. It is election season, so a lot of good information coming out there. So we definitely want to just educate the public on issues. What we like to do in the conversation is the debates are awesome. They're great, but sometimes it doesn't allow you to really explain your platform fully. So we kind of want to give you the opportunity here. It's tough to kind of say what you want to say in a 1 or 2 minute rebuttal, but we kind of want to give that platform here. So thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you, Newbie. It's a pleasure to be here, and you're absolutely right. To take all of the issues that challenge us and reduce it to a 2-minute question or a 2-minute answer is almost impossible. So what I've done is I've always gone to the ward meetings that the different ward councilors hold, whether it's Ward 2, Ward 4, Ward 5, Ward 6, Ward 7, because I find the feedback from the residents is really what drives my agenda. So my handout card, which I am quite proud of, labels something our Brockton agenda, but it's not really my agenda. It's from the bottom up, and I think that's what's so important: is listening, developing an agenda, and then working on an agenda that has the support and the interests of the public.
Councilor Farwell, you mentioned your big thing is open and transparent government. No secrets. You actually say no secret deals or agreements. Just kind of expand upon that. That seems to be, last couple of years, that seems to be a big point of yours. Just kind of explain how you've been able to do that, and what do you continue to want to do in the future?
Well, I think the most important thing is fair and equal opportunity in employment, because the city does have jobs from time to time. People retire, people resign, people leave the workforce. It's 2019, Newbie. Every single person should have a right to put in their application, their resume, and be fairly, not graded, but evaluated on their experience, what they can bring to the job. And it doesn't matter to me whether 10 people are hired and they're all from the same group, or whether we have a smattering of people. Pick the best possible people, but make sure those jobs are posted. Make sure they're out there for people to be able to read and respond to an advertisement. So Tom Monahan and I, after the infamous Lopes case here in Brockton, we put together an ordinance that mandates that we advertise for 2 weeks, and we advertise for more than just the city website. We allow people to apply for a position, and if there are special requirements, which can sometimes be a screening process to dissuade people from applying, okay, if you're going to say that, then you better give someone a test. Whoever you hire, make sure you give them a test so that they can substantiate that they have those special requirements, and it's not just something that's been dreamed up as part of the application process. And we need to work on that. The other thing that bothered me was the host community agreements for retail marijuana licenses. It just seemed to me we should have had something published in the paper and on our website saying, if you're interested in a host community agreement, you have between this date and that date to submit all of your materials. After a certain date, we will accept no more. And then all of those who passed muster, all of those who complied with all of the rules and regulations and requirements, they should get a host agreement so they have a fair opportunity to go before the Cannabis Control Commission. And those little things that we do in government, I think, will inspire confidence from the people we serve.
What are some things you're most proud of in your last couple of years as a city councilor, and some things that you kind of want to accomplish if you're reelected on November 5th?
Well, I think just being thoroughly honest with people, and I use social media not as a weapon, but really as an information media. And so I like to get all of the information out, even warts and all, whether it's good or bad. Put it out there, let people know what you're working on, tell people why you voted for a particular thing and why. I have been able to author a couple of ordinances that established minimum requirements for people on the planning board and the Conservation Commission, which we did not have, and I think that's important. I guess my big thing is finances, because I served as mayor, as you know, back in the early 1990s when the city was almost bankrupt. So I watch very, very carefully every annual budget. Are we placing the money where it will yield the most benefit, the most bang for the buck, if you will, because we need to honor the taxpayer, which I have in my card. You need to honor the taxpayer, because without them, without the money that they pay in, either in real estate taxes or income taxes or sales taxes, meals taxes, we don't have a government. I mean, we just don't exist without the support, the financial support of all of our residents.
A lot of great candidates running, as you know. But you actually have a particular difference because you are actually the mayor, which makes you chair of the school committee.
Yes.
And also currently a city councilor. So does that experience separate you from the others? What separates you?
Well, I do think having held every elected office in the city, 10 years on the school committee, 4 years as mayor, and now almost 4 years as councilor at large, it doesn't make me anything better in terms of person to person, but the level of experience, just the body of knowledge that you necessarily have to pick up in each of those positions, I think gives me quite a unique opportunity to evaluate an issue that comes in, figure out whether it's beneficial for the community, and then decide what position to take on that issue. And it's really very helpful.
One thing that a lot of people get confused on is, the city council can't hire. They can't hire for anybody, but they set policies, like you mentioned,
Yes.
on things to be done. You mentioned your postcard about more police and more fire. How would you be able to do that in terms of, everyone needs more fire, more police. How would you be able to accomplish that?
I think you have to take a look at the new revenues that we hope will come into the city in terms of retail marijuana sales taxes and the host community agreements. I think some should be apportioned to the schools so that we can improve programs and services for our kids. But I think another portion of those revenues should be apportioned for new public safety personnel, technology, and equipment. But I think the most important thing is it wouldn't matter if you had 500 cops on the street. You've got to have a bond between the people you serve as a cop and the department as a whole. They've got to feel as though you're there for them and you'll be with them when they need you. And sometimes the silliest little things count, like if a cruiser's on patrol and they see 2 or 3 kids shooting baskets, stop and shoot a couple of baskets with the kids and say, hey, everything okay? Anything I should know about? You feeling safe in the neighborhood? Anything that you'd like to tell me confidentially? And if you do that repeatedly, not just once or twice, but if you do that repeatedly, eventually those kids are going to realize you're sincere, that you're a person, not just a uniform and a badge. And so I hope we get to that model of neighborhood policing and community relations, because I think it will really make a big difference.
Now, I'm 30, so maybe people my age or younger may not know that you were a police officer as well.
That's correct, yeah.
So I think that, that's definitely another asset. So this leads me to my next question. In terms of, it's a national hot button issue, and there's been some things going on here in Brockton about police and community relations. So what are some suggestions you may have, as a counselor to kind of bond those relationships?
Okay, I think we have to go back to neighborhood policing in all of the different wards. There should be a civilian volunteer ward coordinator in all of the 7 wards. There should be periodic meetings. There should be more than just one officer assigned. Bill Healy is a wonderful guy. I served with Bill, but it is humanly impossible to cover 21 square miles in all of the different neighborhoods with 1 or 2 officers. So I think there should be eventually a team, a community relations team, a diverse team that can reach out to the community and go to all of the different wards, hold periodic meetings, and not just with adults. You've got to meet with the kids. You've got to meet with the kids right down to the elementary school level, junior high level, because if you don't, they'll always see you as just a uniform and a badge. And we're people first. Before you ever consider going into police work, you're a person. You got the same worries financially, girlfriends, paying for college and everything else. You got the same worries. So, why not be human? Why not show people that, yeah, I got a badge and I've got a uniform, and when I have to, I'll use it. I'll use the authority that's given to me wisely and fairly. But basically, I want to know what's going on in the community so I can prevent a lot of things. That's really the key, is prevention. After something happens, it's much, much harder to get it under control.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely, I actually want to give a shout out to you for being part of the documentary that we produced. And it won an Emmy Award, because I've always said we have Emmy Award winning people, which is, you're one of the people who are in the documentary. So I want to thank you for that. So I want to talk about increasing the tax rates, but before that, a lot of investment going on in downtown in the city, which is awesome. How do you balance giving an investor a tax break to bring them in, but also being fair to everyone else? How do you balance that? I know about the tips and different situations like that.
Well, there's two things. There's tax increment financing, and then there's tax increment exemptions. And we recently had a couple of tax increment exemptions, which means that you take the value of a building now, and then eventually it's going to have a much higher value because somebody's coming in and rehabbing it and turning it into either a business or housing. And you forgive a portion of the difference in taxes between what they're paying now and what the building would be assessed once it's done. If it's in a heavily blighted area, and we have had absolutely no luck attracting new businesses and new residences, I have no problem on a short-term basis, maybe up to 7 years, giving out a tax increment exemption. I don't like 20 years because when we give a 20-year tax increment exemption, we're basically binding all of those future mayors and and city councils for those 20 years. They have no movement. It's a contractual agreement with someone. But on the short term, I think we can reasonably look ahead, see what the benefit is to the city, and give that business person a break. I will tell you, though, that I wish we had a mechanism to give homeowners a break. For example, if someone moves to Brockton and they're willing to invest in the city and take out a mortgage and move into a neighborhood, I wish there was some way that maybe for the first couple of years we could give them a short break on their taxes until they get themselves established financially and they become a part of the community. We don't have that statutory authority right now, but who knows? Maybe the legislature would look at that at some point.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. I think that's definitely dynamite. If you get elected November 5th, what are some priorities, coming in that you really want to look into? And it's a team effort. It's, you're one of 11, so it's not nothing you could just do on your own. But what's some priorities you kind of want to look into next year?
Well, I think the first one is whoever the new councilors are, I want to meet with them, and I'm going to say, look, we're not always going to agree, and we shouldn't, because then if everyone votes the same way, it looks like it's a set-up deal.
Right.
I'll help you in any way I can. I'll share all the information I can. I do think we need to focus on the open, honest city government. You'll notice on my card I have something that I'm rather proud of, and it says, integrity isn't everything in politics, it's the only thing. Without it, every vote and every decision is compromised. And that's true. I just want to exhibit integrity, take each issue that comes in, fairly evaluate it, research it, and then vote the right way, not because it might favor you or a group or a businessman or a campaign contributor. Does it benefit the city? Will it improve the quality of life for our people? So schools and road reconstruction and repairs and public education, I think, are absolutely the cornerstone of what we do in this community, especially schools, because the kids everything is so competitive now. We need a science, technology, engineering, and math center up at the high school. We're going to need a new school building, I'm sure, in the south end at the elementary level. We got to focus on education because that's really the key. So public safety, education, economic development, repair the streets, and have open, transparent, fair government, treat everyone equally, and I think Brockton will really have a very positive image.
Last question. Time flies by. We're about 15 minutes in. Let's talk about the big thing in this election is being able to represent everybody.
Yep.
and everybody having a voice. How do you plan on doing that and making sure you're continuing to represent all races, all cultures in your city council seat?
The first thing I'd want to say, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to offer these comments, almost every issue that comes before the city council is colorblind. Everyone wants safe neighborhoods and streets. Everyone wants the best possible educational programs. Everyone wants some economic development and jobs so that either someone can get a second job and balance the family budget, or a kid can go to work while they're in school and earn enough money towards tuition. So I can't think of anything that I've done in my political career that was separated by either race, ethnicity, sexual orientation or anything else. I mean, we truly are all one people in terms of our goals and objectives. So I still think the best way to do that is through periodic meetings, outreach, being accessible. Nothing irritates me more than when I hear, well, I called Councilor so-and-so and they never called me back. You know, it doesn't cost anything to pick up the phone and return a phone call. I mean, that's really just basic.
Right.
Because when you do that, you've turned that person off. That might be the only time someone calls their elected official, and if they don't get a call back, what do you think their image of us is going to be?
Yeah, it's
They're gonna
painting a
think,
broad
"Oh."
brush on everybody.
Absolutely. So, yeah, open accessibility, but you got to walk the walk when you talk the talk. You got to make those jobs available to everyone. You got to work in every neighborhood on police community relations and safe neighborhoods. And I think over time, people are going to find out that it really doesn't matter what the councilor looks like. We all have the same hopes and dreams and values.
I think you're 100% right. Well, just want to thank you for coming on the conversation. Is there anything you want to add before we sign out here?
You know, I love public service. And you know, with social media and everything that goes on, you either got to love it or you're going to hate it.
Right.
I happen to like it. I think it's very beneficial, and I find when someone says to me, I want to thank you for getting that street light fixed, or I want to thank you for getting that pothole fixed. It might be silly to most people, but there's a great deal of satisfaction. So I hope on November 5th, people will consider me and vote for Winthrop Farwell for another 2-year term on the council, and I'll do my very best.